What's going on, everybody? This is your man, Big Stu, Scott Stewart, or Professor Stewart, depending on how you know me. And we are back for another edition of Dope People right here on the Dope People podcast. And I know I say it every episode. It's almost like it's corny at this point, but we have the dopest episode right here, right here. I'm telling you, every single episode has been a level up. I'm super excited for the future when you all go back and be like, I cannot believe Dope People had these level of people on this podcast, but we are doing it again today. We are taking it up another level. We have Dr. Glow with us, Dr. Asheena Baez with us. Dr. Asheena Baez, welcome to Dope People. Welcome to Dope
People. Thank you, brother. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. It is an honor to have you. So thank you for being here. So I'm going to read your bio. I want the people to know, kind of like who you are professionally, right? And if there's anything that I get wrong, please let me know and we can fix it. So listen up, people. Dr. Asheena Baez, affectionately known as Dr. Glow, shout out to OSG, All School Grounds, is a sustainability culturalist, healer of humanity, who speak, let me say this again, a healer of humanity who speaks what she seeks until she sees what she said. Hold up. Dr. Asheena Baez is an internationally renowned mindful leadership coach, curriculum developer, and educational consultant. Currently, Dr. Baez is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Asheena Baez Consulting, LLC. She's also an adjunct professor at Columbia University, Russell Sage Doctoral Program, Organizational Cultural Strategist. I have to say it again because I know I minced those words. An adjunct professor at Columbia, we got that, Columbia University, Russell Sage Doctoral Program, Organizational Cultural Strategist, and Complex Systems Leadership and Wellbeing Consultant for the New York City Department of Education. Dr. Baez specializes in curating the conditions to create an intersectionality between organizational culture sustainability and indestructible well-being. I'm gonna go on because it's worthy. This is who we have today. Dr. Glow, Dr. Baez, depending on how you know her, has devoted the last 2 decades of her life to leadership and organizational well-being, transforming globally, transforming people globally, transforming minds globally. Dr. Baez has led global teams in the education, corporate, nonprofit sector, utilizing evidence-based mindful practices to cultivate psychological flexibility and emotional resilience, cultural transformation, and sustainability, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusivity. I want to go on because I don't know. Look, I've never done this before. I don't know if y'all watch Drink Champs. On Drink Champs, they give these people their roses today. I feel like on Dope People, we want to give you your dope. We want to give you your flowers today. So I'm going to keep going with this because I want you all to rewind this and play this back. This is who was with us today. After graduating from the Summer Principal Academy graduate program at Columbia University, Dr. Baez went on to serve the program as a leadership coach and is currently an adjunct professor. I already told you that. She's led transformation and cultural sustainability for school districts in 8 countries. She's from the South Bronx, right? She's provided people with inspiration, mindfulness strategies. This is absolutely bananas. Dr. Asheena Baez.
Yes, brother.
You completed your doctoral studies
Sure did.
and dissertation centered on the impact of mindfulness and cultivating sustainable organizational culture and well-being.
The
And she
first
always
one.
says this, she's here to serve.
That's it. That's
Dr.
all.
Baez, Dr. Glow, welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a blessing to be here, brother.
It's a blessing to have you. It's a blessing to have you. Now that tells us a lot about you professionally. And as it should, you've done your work. You've done your work. But it really doesn't tell us about like you. And there's only one way that we can really find out about you here on Dope People. And we invite you to a game of this or that. Are you down for a game?
I'm down. I'm ready.
All right.
Bring it on. Let's see.
So you know how this goes, right?
School me.
We give you two choices.
Okay.
This one or that one. We'll tell you what the choices are. Okay. And then you tell us first instinct, this or that. Okay. We start off really light and then we kind of get into it. So here we go. Newspaper or online news?
Newspaper.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Bunny or squirrel?
Neither. No, I'm just like bunny.
I asked another New Yorker that, and it was just like, they both like rats. So like, no, like neither one.
Right now, we're not about that life. Okay, we'll take the bunny. We'll take the bunny over the squirrel.
Like the bunny, definitely not the squirrel, right? Okay. Day or night?
Definitely day.
Text message or call?
Only a call.
Library or museum?
Definitely library.
Book or movie?
I prefer the book.
Read or write?
I prefer to write.
Talk or listen?
Definitely listen.
Love or money?
Absolutely love.
Boat or plane?
Oshun, definitely boat.
Fire or ice?
Absolutely ice.
Fruits or vegetables?
Vegetarian, vegetable.
Okay. Friends or family?
Absolutely, my friends are my family. So we'll say friends.
Alone or together?
I like together.
HBCU or PWI?
Clark Atlanta University, HBCU.
Charters or unions?
Neither. No, I'm just playing.
OSG, right?
OSG for life, for life. We definitely about that, those unions.
Teachers or parents?
Parents are our first teachers, so I'll say parents.
Wow. Okay. Here's the one. Traditional learning or e-learning?
Definitely traditional. I'll say tribal.
All right. Well, you did it. You did it. We know more about you now than we ever knew about you. Great job. Great
Thank
job.
you, brother.
So how does it feel to hear yourself, hear your resume? How did it feel to hear that?
Well, the dope thing about hearing it is that I allow my inner child to dance a bit, right? Like I grew up in the South Bronx in the 5th floor walk up during the crack epidemic. So I watched my community turn from wheat to weeds, right? So when I hear that resume, I remember to myself those moments of everyone who looked like me, who I grew up with, not having the same level of opportunity, but I could always see beyond it, right? So when I look at my resume and hear my resume back to me, I just think to myself, in a world where society would have allowed me or wanted me or accepted me to be a turtle, I chose to be a giraffe.
Sheesh. Wow. Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. And that's one of the reasons you are officially dope people by us. And you don't need our validation. That's not what this is, right? We find dopeness in you, Dr. Glow, Dr. Baez, because there is so much depth to you and in you. And I'm sure everybody within the sound of your voice or the sight of your face gets that. They pick that up from you, your spirit. So before we go into our normal route, I would normally talk to you about, matter of fact, it makes sense. What kind of student were you in sixth grade? Now we know you're from the South Bronx, so sixth grade, take us back. What kind of student were you then?
Okay, first of all, in the sixth grade, I was going through my TLC phase. So I was like baggy cross colors,
Wow.
um, heavy left eye, all like
Oh,
female rapper,
wow.
like just influenced. I actually started rapping when I was like 9.
Wow.
I grew up with a slew of hustlers, and that ran the block, and they were always intrigued by my ability to freestyle.
Wow.
So by sixth grade, I had learned everything that I needed to know about how to run a block and how
Mm,
to hold my own in a cipher of men. So I was always the
mm,
only woman or young lady. I was about 9. So by the time I got to sixth grade and I'm, feeling really confident, I was holding my own. And as a student, because I had such a gift with words, English was always my strong suit. Like I would
mm.
just write, and I would then my raps would turn into poetry. My poetry, by the time I made it to seventh grade, I would write a poem that would pay for my 4 years of college. One
Oh,
poem, by the
wow.
way,
Wow.
because
That sounds like that's real. Like that.
yeah,
It's a real thing. You telling me a real thing.
this poem
Mm,
was a series. I had wrote a poem about what it looked like, sound like, and felt like to watch a community through the lens of the eyes of a young person and watch how their spirits kind of moved. So this poem, they would call me the transit poet, from the time I got to middle school to high school, because I would only write my poetry on public transportation. So I'll be on the train, on the bus. I like to always travel. And this poem that I wrote, it was called the 125th Street Blues, because this is when I started to go from the Bronx to Harlem to school. Um, and that poem, I think, quite honestly, it changed my life,
mm.
because I didn't realize how powerful my gift was until then.
Wow. That's a whole nother episode in itself because you are a published author.
Yes,
Yes. How many books have you written so far? Or
4.
published, I should say,
I've
available for sale?
Available for sale on Amazon. I co-authored a book with each of my children. My 10-year-old, an elementary book on the impact importance of mindfulness and transitioning after the pandemic.
Mhm.
A book with my 12, well, now he's 12 years old, my son, the same kind of topic, but this is the middle school edition of this and what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like to honor yourself as a young king, and deal with anxiety with the pandemic. And then a
Mhm.
book with my 17-year-old, who is amazing. She started a Black student union, and she's also a poet and activist. So I co-authored a book with her. So we're excited now. Sayla, the 17-year-old, she'll star in her own show, called Spark One, which we dubbed as the title of an organization that I founded my freshman year at Hampton University.
Come on.
Um, a dope organization with all men, and I was the only woman in the organization. I wanted to make sure my brothers were together, to the point where we was able to do community cleanups and all of these community events, but all of us were rappers, uh, poets, just activists. So we started this organization that would transform the entire university. And my daughter has taken up the torch, and she is like, the voice of the movement.
And what was the name of your crew back
Spark
in
One. Spark
the
One.
Spark One was the name of the crew?
The name of I actually founded the
Wow.
organization, legitly, right on the campus of Hampton University. Then I had transferred to Clark Atlanta University, and we founded another chapter of Spark One there. And now we're like
Wow.
we're like in 7 different HBCU campuses.
Y'all hear
One
this?
idea. I was 17 years old when I created that organization because I needed to create home away from home. This was my first time being away from home. So I was like, look, I just need dope people. So I've always been in the
Yeah,
company
well,
of
yeah,
dope
it's
people.
evident. It's obvious. It's very obvious. Yeah, no surprise there.
Every last one of the members of Spark One, they're world leaders right now. So Angelo Pinto, Esquire, he founded Until Freedom, co-founded Until Freedom with Tamika Mallory. Every one of my executive officers now lead global organizations around activism. So it's just a dope thing that's where it started. We started that.
Did you always know that you wanted to get into education? Like, when did you first realize that you wanted to get an education? Because you were a teacher. Were you ever a classroom teacher? Because I know there's so much in your resume, but I don't think that says. So when did you realize or decide to get into education?
I knew since I was 5 years old that I was going to be
Wow.
a principal.
There was like somebody in your family you saw doing this. Like what? Yeah, take
You
us
know,
through that.
I'm a first generation college graduate, so no one in my family actually to date
Mm.
has a degree but me, and I have 5 advanced degrees. So I wanted to really lean into this idea that you get to choose how you show up into this world, how you show up to your family, how you show up professionally. So at 5 years old, I had my first visitation. It was actually a spiritual enlightened moment where the spirit came to me and told me everything that I would do, everything up until the age of 40. I'm 40 right now, and everything has come into fruition. The spirit said you would be a principal, told me I would have 3 children, told me a lot of the things that would transpire. He said, when you close your eyes, everyone will know your name. And in a very, very real way, I would play school with my cousins and my sisters. I was always the youngest. And we would play school and I would go around. They would set up their dolls in their classrooms. I'll go around and I'll be like, you're fired. Like, wait, how you following? I'm like, I'm the principal. It's like, you can't be the principal to you the youngest. I was like, then I'm not playing. I was a boss
Wow.
since the beginning.
Wow. Wow.
It's who I've always been. So I started out very, very young as a teacher. And I actually went back to the Bronx and taught in the school that I attended. So I
Okay,
think
that's
it's really
dope.
important to go back into your community and give back. So I started out as a special education teacher. And then I became an assistant principal, then a district leader. I went up
Okay.
the ranks like that.
Wow. Why'd you leave the classroom?
Um, I think the same reason why I make these transitions is always I follow my spirit. So when I got hired to be a teacher, I was a New York City teacher fellow. And the principal at the time, Erica Tabaya, who, she's moved up quite so far in the DOE now, but she was my principal at the time. And she's like, Asheena, I'm going to give you this gifted and talented second grade class. So I was hyped because, usually your first placement is like, children
Yeah,
that
you got to
are
work your
really
way up. Yeah.
difficult. But by the time, that's what was promised to me in June. And then August, when I started, I got a fourth, fifth grade self-contained bridge class
Oh man.
with students on the IEP that read, arsonists and like the most
Man.
interesting things. So I walked into that classroom with this awareness that we all gonna make it. Like so I remember that first day. I still got a picture, by the way. Like, and I'll show you. I had a picture of my first class in my house, in my living room. Everybody walks in. This is how like transformational this was. I get there on the first day and I got my skirt suit, everything that I thought a teacher was supposed to look like. I did it. I checked all of the boxes. I was ready. Lesson plans ready. I get into the classroom, at least I thought it was a classroom, but they really gave me like a storage closet that didn't even have a whole window. We like off in the cut. And I'm like, we all supposed to, 12 kids are supposed to fit in this class. Literally like children sharing desks. It was really, really, really crazy. I get in there and all of the students come in, all boys and one girl at the time. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna lean into this. Within 30 minutes, I'm looking at all of the students and their behaviors. I got one student, Kevin, my favorite student. He's sitting there, he got his hands on the desk, he just looking so great. I'm like to myself, I gotta make a change because Kevin doesn't, I could tell he just doesn't. And he's like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I'm like, all of this. So Kevin then raises his hand and he says, Miss, and at that time it was McNeil, Miss McNeil, can I sharpen my pencil? I'm like, sure, Kevin. I'm writing on the board, doing the things. And I'm noticing that Kevin is sharpening his pencil kind of long. He's standing there, and before I could turn around, Kevin went to go stab Malik in the neck with his pencil. And the first thing that I could think of was to grab him, right? This is before we really had a any kind of. I have always been literally like, I feel like a heart with sneakers. So I grabbed him and I just hugged him. And I remember holding him in my arms, like tight too, like tight, tight. And he dropped the pencil. And I said, you know, I love you. And he's looking at me like I'm crazy. And I said, yeah, I love you. So love, you required to act differently. You can't act like a child that's unloved. You hear me? And he's looking at me. Imagine a teacher telling you on the first day, you know how much I love you? And like all of the kids were like, wait, she's a different breed. Like it's something different.
Right.
So I would go on to see like there was so little expectations for these children in the whole building. Everybody just kind of put them to the side. So lunchtime comes real quick, and we are, you know, we right there in the Gun Hill section of the Bronx where we transition, and it's like a pet store on that block by the train station. So I'm like, yo, I gotta go in. My spirit just said, go into the pet store. Don't ask me why. It's my lunch break. I ain't getting no lunch. I go in there, I asked the owner, I said, can you do me a favor? What animal in here tell me what animal in here that nobody wants, like nobody. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, I want an animal that nobody wants. So he was like, well, besides the mice, you know, people want those because we feed those to the rats. The only thing that just been here forever, seems like nobody's taking, is this guinea pig because it's albino and it looks like a white rat. I said, that's the one. So I said, give me everything that I need, the food, the carrier, all of that. I put them together, put all of this stuff, put them up in the classroom. I have to go downstairs to pick up the kids from lunch and bring them back. When they come back, I line them up outside. These children never stand in line. And I said, y'all, when y'all see what I got in that room for y'all better stand on this line. Y'all gonna be so excited. So they standing in the line. And I closed the door. And then I opened the door real slow. And I said, I need y'all to sit down. They're like, nothing looked different. They didn't realize the cage was in the back. And I said, you know, I was walking to the pizza shop during lunch and my spirit told me to go into the pet shop. And the owner began to tell me that there was actually somebody there that nobody wanted, that nobody believed in, that was almost like they was invisible, kind of like a ghost. So I want y'all to meet the newest member of our family, Casper. And I showed him Casper and I said, we gotta love him. We gotta show him how to behave. So we can't hurt each other. We gotta love on each other because nobody ever loved him. So we're gonna love him like the way nobody else ever loved us. So when we felt invisible in school, when we felt like nobody cared about us, we're gonna love each other in a way that will supersede everything, because love is the greatest force in this whole world. And when I tell you, Francisco, who was the quote unquote arsonist, he got on the rug like a 2-year-old baby and was holding Casper. I would take that, let them take the animal home every weekend. We had like a math unit I built around it. We had all of these things. I'm telling you all of this because the life of a teacher, literally, you have a choice. You can be a landscaper and cut children down, or you can be a gardener and grow them. You get to literally cultivate the soil to grow children in that role. It's the greatest role I think I've ever played, was being a teacher.
Wow. That's a heck of a story. That's a heck of a story. You do a lot of work around mindfulness, right? And manifesting. What is the importance, like, and let me stick to the question, because the mindfulness piece is going to come out, I think. So let's get to the 3 essential questions. What's your biggest challenge for you in education? Because you wear a couple of hats right now. Give us your current hat. You're an adjunct professor, yes, but what are you doing at the DOE? What's that title again?
Okay, so what I do, I literally am organizational culturist and wellness
Yes.
professional developer. So I go into spaces and places
Okay.
where organizations, schools, districts are experiencing a level of dysfunction.
Okay.
I bring them together, utilizing the tools of mindfulness.
All right.
So
So,
that's what I do.
okay. So thank you for that clarity. Thank you for that clarity. You do your work, right? You go in and you help organizations from a cultural perspective using mindfulness principles and tactics and strategies.
Yeah.
What's your biggest challenge in education today?
I believe my biggest challenge is the biggest challenge, and that is understanding the continuum between more versus enough. I think the biggest challenge is the mindset of educators, leaders, and as it pertains to this ability to be able to see into their enoughness and to reject the spirit of scarcity. I have never in my entire career felt this sense, collective spirit of scarcity. So my challenge all the time is to really kind of go into every organization through this lens of grace and this ability to really be able to say, look, we pull from an abundant source. So I get to remind everybody with a face that they were already enough. Like they already have everything that they need. But to convince, right? Almost I'm manifesting this in folks to allow them to see it. What COVID did was for a lot of people is that it created a psychological barrier and blockage, if you will, to their hopes. And it kept them in a state of fear. So the biggest challenge for me is to just break those barriers down and to show them psychologically that they're the more flexible and moldable that they allow their mental and emotional space to become, the more abundance that they get to have right now. Like this is not something that they have to graduate to, right? It's not their happiness or their contentment is not based on the degree, the marriage, the car, the house, the job. Their enoughness is based on their capacity and ability to serve others from where they are, right? So that's to me the work of my work that sometimes presents itself as a challenge because I'm a ball of light, right? So I come into a space and place like, won't he do it? Like,
right.
And when the system itself has kind of, just weighed them down so much, a lot of this time, honestly, in the beginning, is spent almost, if I'm to say this correctly, I feel like it's an archaeology dig that I have to do first. And I have to kind of dig through the debris.
Wordsmith. You are a wordsmith. I see. Yeah, the way you put that together.
That's what it is,
You
really.
can
So
visualize with that.
Yeah, it's work. But it's a beautiful thing because what happens is, right, is the same thing that happens with the process of really getting a diamond. Like it's going to require that pressure. It's going to require that the refinement. It's going to require that fire sometimes. And then once you do, oh my gosh, the beauty, the way that person's spirit shines. And when that principal or that teacher or that parent coordinator goes back into their organization, it's transformed because the transformation happens from within.
Yeah.
Right? They no longer seek the validation from outward. They realize that they were already divinely designed. And I just remind them of that. Yeah. So that's really my work.
What's got you bouncing out of the bed every day to get to your work? What's working for you in education specifically?
For me, it's always going to be the same thing. It's the responses that I get to have from the students. I had a dope session last week with Liberation High School where I brought 50 young men who were overage and undercredited into one space. And according to everyone else, these young men, they're different. That's what people kept saying. These children are different. And I'm like, what do you mean? Children are children. And young men are young men, and I'm a queen, so I get to call out their king. I call them young kings and watch what happens. So I got to be with my other OSG sister, who's their principal, April, and she just watched, like literally in amazement, as I took every boy. Like, I didn't want to break them up. I wanted every young man in her building in one space at the same time, and to watch what happens when you call on someone's greatness. These young kings, and I called them that the whole session, we got to look at the ways, because we had a activity called graffiti, and this idea was to make sure that your legacy is in the lives of everybody that you touch. And if you were leaving these words for generations beyond you to see what kind of men you were, how would you respond to the men, of this time? So we had quotes from Nipsey, quotes from Tupac, quote, right? And then they was tagging their own quotes, just powerful, them telling to them, as a young king, you got to see yourself in everybody. You got, like, and this was all curated by them, but just giving them the audacity to dream, and giving them that abundance to be able to say, your words are power. Your words are how you manifest your whole life. Everything began on a word. So this is why I tell you, and this is why I tell everybody, to speak what you seek until you see what you said. The power of that it changed my life. And everything that I speak, I get to see it manifesting. Every interaction, I tell you, brother, it's almost, to other people, it feels like out of body. For me, it feels natural. I had a whole conversation. Yeah, I had a whole conversation, brother. When the whole Will Smith and Chris Rock situation happened a couple weeks back, and I said to myself, I just need to be able to sit down with brother Chris, and I need to be able to build with him. Today was Sunday. I'm sitting down with one of my other clients, and I told my client, I can't explain what this feeling is that I have, but I know that brother Chris is going to come to this table. I said it. I saw him walk into the place. He sat down, and within 30 minutes, he came to our table. Speak what you seek until you see what you said. And just yesterday, I got to tell him how proud I was of him for making it so clear that in a world where Black and brown men, the whole world is waiting for them to react, he chose to respond. And there's nothing more courageous than that. I told him that I loved him, that I will hold him up in prayer. I told him that he is a part of an entire legacy. Our ancestors are lifting him up. So if he ever felt alone, if he ever felt isolation, to understand that he's walking in his anointing. So when his conviction doesn't feel convenient, that's when it's time to lean into it a little bit more. Gave that brother a good hug, gave him my love, gave him my energy. And now I'm going to welcome in a conversation with Will. I had a vision yesterday of holding both of their hands and praying together. So let's seek that until we seek that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know that's going to happen. I look forward to hearing about that.
Let's talk about it.
Hearing about that. Yeah. I did see the photo, and I made no assumptions, but to hear that story from you, from the source itself, is awesome. So let that serve as a testament, folks. Speak what you seek until you see what you say.
Praise God.
See what you said. Okay. Let's talk about what education going forward looks like, particularly 6th through 12th grade, right? And I know it's just my space is 6th through 12th grade. What does education look like going forward? You said in this or that, the traditional environment over e-learning. But what does school look like in the foreseeable future?
So let me be super clear and transparent. When I say traditional, I don't mean this Eurocentric tradition. I mean African tradition.
Come on, break it down. Yeah,
right. Come on. So traditional for me is ancestral. It is the ability of there being multi-aged, young people together, learning through project-based in a communal setting that makes sense. I see pods happening in different places and spaces, kind of like a WeWorks, but children just being able to go and build. I see education as this ability to draw from within. So there's not something that's a pouring into the children. There's a curiosity and a discovery that children get to do. I see financial literacy abound. I see every 6 to 12th grader there, upon quote unquote transitioning through their manhood and womanhood training. They all have LLCs. They all understand the power and the behavioral mindset associated to money, associated to their emotions. So they have a financial literacy, an emotional literacy, a cultural literacy, as they matriculate in an environment where they are the CEOs of their life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Wow.
School is more than a building, brother.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that vision. That speaks directly to, my heart, my passions, and how we're pushing forward out here in Chicago as well. Anything that I know there's a lot, and we only have a short amount of time for this episode, but we makes the people hungry for more. This has been a dynamic conversation. What haven't we talked about that you want to share? Or is there anything that we haven't quite touched on that you want to make sure that you get out before we close today's conversation?
Absolutely. I want to put a program and I should say a city transformation on the map and on the globe. I'm so excited to be working with Mayor Eric Adams and his entire team of deputy mayors. The New York City Summer Rising and Summer Youth Employment program is 215,000 students. And then the 300,000 interagencies and essential workers to build what we're calling MELD NYC, which stands for Mindful Emotional Leadership Development. We started already with the mayors, and we're working on and excited to get everything underway this summer with all of our children and our students. Wow. And then this actual school year, we get the opportunity, brother. Can you imagine if every officer in New York City learned the power of mindfulness and psychological flexibility, and were able to serve their community in a space of emotional elasticity, emotional resilience, compassion, and imagine if everyone with a face had the skills to step into this idea that we were all born to be well, and wellness is a birthright. I think it will just transform the way that we look at city transformation, which will lead to global transformation. So I look forward to starting in the city that never sleeps, New York City, and replicating this in every major city. So look for us in Chicago. Absolutely. Look for us all over. We'll be everywhere.
Wow. Absolutely awesome talking to you, listening to you,
praise God,
hearing you, soaking it in, letting it seep in. I want, like you say, you don't call it a pouring into, but it's a bit of an anointment talking to you and listening to you speak. So thank you again for blessing us on the show. Tell the people, and we'll put it in the show notes, tell the people where they can find you if they want you to come to their city, their country, their continents, because we're on 5 different continents. So you're global. People in Africa, my people in Australia, my people in China, the UK. Where can people find you, Dr. Baez?
Yes, brother. They get to go right to my website. They can go to AsheenaBaezConsulting.com, and all the information that they need is waiting right there. I want to remind the people that in this life, you get to choose. So in this ability that they're choosing, I want them to know that they get to choose them in the moment, because self-care is not selfish. And boundaries are the way that we show the people we love how to love us back. No is a complete answer. So take care of yourself, because you are worthy and you are worth it. I love you, family.
Man, love you as well. To everybody listening, you already know what it is. Check me out, scottstewart.com. Check out Genius Lab at geniuslabchicago.com. You already know what it is. Until next time, peace.
Peace out.